So these genetic testing companies have become quite popular both in the US and in China, but for very, very different reasons. In the US, most people take these tests because they want to know a little bit about where they come from. They want to know their heritage, their lineage, and whatnot. Here in China, though, people want to know what their DNA says about them so that they can plan for the future. If people are, let's say, prone to heart disease or to Alzheimer's, they may change their lifestyles. I'm doing this because I want to know if I'm at risk of having Alzheimer's, like my father.
CRISPR it's certainly a game changer.
CRISPR is a tool that can alter physical traits, even life-threatening diseases.
We can use gene editing technology to let pig suffer from human disease.
There's something really, really uncomfortable about this.
So for less than $1,000, you can genetically modify humans or human cells.
This gives us the power to control evolution?
Yeah, with this technology, human can do that.
The potential of this genetic editing tool is an ethical minefield that challenges the idea of life itself.
My concern is human enhancement.
Or designer humans.
Yes.
Let's do it, see what happens. You know, I've genetically modified myself with CRISPR. People say, like, you're playing God, and I love when people say that. I think it's so true and brilliant.
Welcome to the Global Community Bio Summit, everybody.
We came to the first global gathering of biohackers, a term for biologists who work outside of traditional labs.
Okay, awesome.
What the is going on?
Your last name?
Zahner.
Josiah?
Perhaps.
Very quickly, what I just wanted to do is to give a shout out for Marshall and what's going to happen. So at some point, Saturday morning.
How you doing, ma'am?
A little bit. How are you?
I woke up on the floor of the kitchen, so. Lord, I can't believe you came.
Josiah Zahner is a former NASA scientist turned biohacker. He's become a kind of a breakout star of the biohacker movement, a movement that he wants to remain in the hands of the people, away from the influence of the scientific establishment.
The people trying to appropriate the biohacker movement, it's gross. I feel gross being here.
Let's say you may not buy into this, but does this sort of validate the work that you and other biohackers have done, that you've gotten the attention of an MIT?
I don't need validation.
What are the risks with working with living organisms?
None.
That's a good one. I may ask why.
Keep dreaming.
So you have about 20 seconds.
Yeah, so we converted the house into a scientific lab and company. We sell genetic engineering kits to people.
Josiah's kits contain gene-cutting tools and bacterial DNA.
So there's 5 of us. What we are trying to do is make genetic engineering technology accessible to people. We want people to be able to use genetic engineering technology as easily as they could use an app on their smartphone.
In the US, gene editing is technically not illegal, but federal funding is either prohibited or extremely difficult to obtain.
It's a box that has all our different DNAs and other things for our yeast CRISPR experiments. We're designing new kits that allow people to engineer brewing and baking yeast with CRISPR.
Josiah's business and the biohacker movement it helps service came to exist largely because of one new tool called CRISPR. short for clustered regularly interspersed short palindromic repeats.
What CRISPR does is it allows you to directly target any sequence in somebody's genome, in their genes that you want, and make whatever change you want.
CRISPR consists of two key components, a protein, which works like a pair of scissors, and what's essentially GPS, which tells the scissors where to cut. It can precisely cut a gene that's responsible for a disease and replace or fix it. It can also alter genes that determine hair color, eye color, or body composition.
So it's a kind of film strip. You can edit the fate and the story of a life of a cell and organism with this technology.
Dr. Emmanuelle Charpentier at the Max Planck Institute for Infection Biology in Germany is one half of the duo that discovered CRISPR's gene-cutting abilities. She and her research partner, Jennifer Doudna of UC Berkeley, harnessed a naturally occurring defense system in bacteria.
It's a tool that really increases a lot the potential of research and development in biology.
That's a pretty incredible discovery.
Yes. It's very nice.
You're very modest about this.
Yes. I really expect, and this is maybe the most exciting aspect for me of CRISPR, is that there will be a lot of new mechanisms revealed, maybe former dogmas that will be challenged.
With the help of CRISPR, the floodgates have opened to all sorts of new experimentation previously unthinkable. China currently leads the way in gene-edited firsts, including CRISPR-edited human embryos in 2015.
Do you have pets at home?
No, my wife did not like dogs, but I have many fishes.
Unlike the US government's cautious approach, the Chinese government is all in on CRISPR research, providing most of the funding for dozens of the country's CRISPR projects.
Tango, Hercules. We lock down the muscle gene and do not let it work, so the muscle grows without limitation.
Researchers at this lab used CRISPR to isolate and manipulate the beagle's muscle, or myostatin gene, making these the most muscular beagles in the world.
He's incredibly muscular right here in his forelegs, I guess. But aside from being more muscular, everything else is okay? He's healthy?
Okay, healthy, very healthy.
Can you edit my myostatin gene?
As I jokingly contemplated enhancing my own muscles with gene editing, the rabbit hole of this technology revealed itself.
Do you worry that we're approaching a day when people say, I want a designer dog. I want a dog that glows in the dark, or I want an extra muscular poodle?
Actually, it says us. It says all of them when we confirm that it's a CRISPR dog. It also excites the world.
简单的就是说，你要克隆一个动物，比如说我要克隆你，我就在你身上切一块皮肤下来，然后呢，把你的细胞给你拿出来培养。
Dr. Lai Lang Shui is one of China's leading CRISPR researchers and a pioneer in the field. He runs several labs, including the one responsible for the mutant dogs. He also educates students about genetics research.
要我去克隆的话，我觉得我还是能做得出来。从技术上来说，没问题，是吧？ So far, use CRISPR on dogs, pigs, rabbit, and mouse. The most excited that if I want to make something in animal, in biomedicine, now I can achieve very easily. Before, if I want to do that, maybe it will take me several years and millions of US dollars to just achieve one genetically modified animals. Now, very fast, yeah, and very inexpensive. 这是我们的 From scientific aspect, it's very exciting. Every scientist like this kind of technology. They can use this technology to make what they want. But from the society, maybe they have some safety concern.
Yeah. What are those concerns?
And the concerns, maybe some people will abusively use this technology to make something very weird.
I'm here in the market district in Guangzhou, and I'm seeing all sorts of dried plants, dried animal parts, and lots of animals that you might not expect to see. And it can be kind of jarring and uncomfortable at times, but it's important to remember that here in China, animals aren't viewed the way they are in the West. People don't have warm and fuzzy feelings about animals the way we might. Animals are largely seen for their utility or their function. They are a means to an end, and you could see that playing out across Chinese society, even across science, when you look at the application of CRISPR across all kinds of different animals.
Ready? Let's go.
Oh, these are cute.
These pigs are immune deficient pigs, so they will suffer from infection disease very easily. But with this model, we can do many experiments to do cancer research and immune research and infectious disease research. So this, we use CRISPR to knock out 2 genes at one time, try to make Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's disease.
Pigs and humans share similar genomes. We have the same immune systems and digestive systems, and suffer from many of the same diseases.
If we succeed in pigs, then we can transfer this technology into human. From the technology aspect, we should no problem to do that now. But so far, you know, the regulation and the law don't allow us to do that.
Seeing all these pigs being CRISPR'd, it is so wild. But there's still something very uncomfortable about this. I think that what makes Americans nervous about CRISPR and about gene editing
For human, right? Gene
for humans,
human.
yeah. But I also think, you know, one of the concerns is because it is a very religious country, CRISPR allows humans, it puts so much power into our hands. It allows us to shape our world in ways never before imagined. And there are many people in the US who think, well, that's not for us to do. That's for a higher power. That's for God. So the idea that we could be playing the role of God makes a lot of people nervous.
Okay. But
Clearly not here, though.
Yeah, not here. I think prevent disease is a good thing. It's really a good thing. Some genetic disease, if we can modify it, this couple have this kind of genetic background. If they get the baby will have some defects. Why don't we just change that?
CRISPR is not a toy. It is so helpful to really boost the development of diverse strategies to treat diseases. Surely it is very phenomenal. Now, having said this, you have controversies with regard to whether the technology should be used for genetically modifying human embryos to design babies with certain genetic traits.
Advancements in genetic screenings of human embryos allow scientists to create organisms by design, not by chance. Coupled with the rise of consumer genetic sequencing and large investments made in the private sector, humanity's genetic toolbox is dramatically expanding. Because CRISPR is such a powerful technology that has such enormous potential that you've captured the imaginations of so many people around the world, including large companies, private, wealthy private individuals. Can that research actually be contained and regulated because there's so much private interest in this?
And this is an interesting aspect, is that, and that allowed a very, very fast way of scientists to adopt the technology in their labs, and the democratization of the technology extremely fast, because this is a technology which everyone can use, even a lab with very modest resources.
Let's do it, see what happens. Biopsy punch. Ooh. Ow.
Josiah uses blog posts to chronicle his CRISPR experiments, including one he did on his own genome.
But I think I got the skin. So I use this CRISPR system designed to edit a gene in my muscles that would make them grow faster, be bigger, and make me stronger. It was just a localized injection and modification to my forearm. Oh man, that's gross. It was a proof of concept, a proof of principle to show people how easy it was.
What was the result of this?
Well, so the results take a while, right? So with human genetic modification, especially in adults, results take months, right? So it's kind of like shooting up with steroids or something, right? You shoot up with steroids, you're not gonna see big muscles like in the next day or probably not even the next week. It takes a bit of time. Can't believe I just did that. This guy from community college sent me an email. He wants 1,000 students for a CRISPR lab. I think we're gonna have our new CRISPR system hopefully in like the next couple weeks.
Sweet.
Oh, wow.
Switch over.
Some of the great scientific breakthroughs using CRISPR. Do you think that it's possible that some of these could emanate from labs like this?
Oh, they're definitely gonna happen from biohackers, and because the thing is, nobody else can do the clinical trials, right? Like, there's been, myself was the first ever human CRISPR experiment. First ever. Didn't happen in a big lab. I don't have millions or billions, even hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? But that's it. That's where the first human CRISPR experiment happened. It happened like from me, from a place like this.
So you think that we're grabbing evolution by the balls and just plowing forward into a whole new era?
I mean, we have been for a while, right? Like humans stopped being involved in natural selection a long time ago, right? Any sort of human that's born that has problems or defects or diseases, we don't kill it. We try our best to keep it alive, right? And that's anti-natural selection. I get like 2, 3, 5, 10 emails a day about people who want to use genetic engineering in some way, right? Maybe to help them with their disease. You know what no person with cancer has ever told me ever? Like, hey, I don't want to try that out because it might hurt me. They've never said that to me, ever. Hey, I don't want to try that out because it might be dangerous.
But you don't think this technology could spur a widespread movement to create the perfect human? 6'2", certain eye color, certain hair color, certain body composition, musculature.
Here's the thing. There is no, I don't think, perfect human, right? We all enjoy different aspects of ourselves. We all enjoy different aspects of other people. Who's to stop somebody from being the person that they see themselves as? Do I want to be big and muscly? Do I want to high endurance? Do I want to have dark color skin or light color skin or whatever you want? Now we actually get to take control and say, like, where do we want to go from here? And you ask these academics and commercial scientists in the US, you say, are we on the verge of do-it-yourself gene editing? Are we on the verge of everything changing? And they're like, no, it's never gonna happen. It's like the night before the revolution, and everybody's outside with their, flashlights and torches, and you have all these people who still don't think it's gonna happen. Like, it's gonna create a whole new species of humans.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
Did you get the results of the gene test of yours?
Yeah, I'm just pulling up your email. Can you help me understand what all of this means?
Yes, of course. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Our ability to manipulate genes can be very powerful. It has been very powerful.
This is going to revolutionize human life.
Would the consequences be bad? And they might be.
Every time you monkey with the genome, you are taking a chance that something will go wrong.
The technique could be misused in horrible ways.
When I started this research project, kind of had this initial feeling of what have I done, and
the thing that's amazing about science and about biology for me is that there's always more to be discovered. And every time we feel like we've figured something out, it seems to open up several more questions. Scientists have appreciated for a long time that once we understood the DNA sequence in cells, if we had a tool that would allow easy manipulation of that sequence, if we had a tool that would allow easy manipulation of that sequence, that would be a very powerful kind of technology. CRISPR is a technology for changing the sequence of DNA in cells in a precise fashion to correct mutations that might otherwise cause disease.
What is a mutation?
Basically, what we think of as mutation is you inherit DNA from mom and dad. But remember, you're starting off as a single cellular organism that divides into trillions of cells that make up you. So we're starting from sperm and egg and getting lots and lots of cells. Every time a cell divides, it has to copy its DNA and pass it on to the next cells. Copy, pass it on, copy, pass it on. And every once in a while, as it's copying all of those bases of DNA, it makes mistakes. Most of those mistakes we never know about. But every once in a while, a mistake occurs in a gene in which one of those bases, one of those coding segments gets altered. And if it gets altered in a gene that causes cells to more rapidly divide, that's a mutation we want to know about. We all carry mutations. There is no such thing as totally normal DNA. We all have mutations. We all expose ourselves to sunlight. We all expose ourselves to different foods. We all make mistakes as our DNA is being copied. So all of this stuff happens. Now, fortunately, there is an incredible proofreading function when we copy DNA so that the cells have lots of repair mechanisms to repair mutations. But sometimes even those slip through the cracks. And what happens is in myeloma, individual bases become changed and they never get fixed. And if they get changed in a bad gene that causes the cell to proliferate, that's an important mutation that can actually cause a tumor to grow.
What are some things that may cause mutations?
I always say that people are the DNA of every individual, and if you want to blame your DNA, who do we blame? Okay, number one, we blame mom and dad because most of the DNA we got was from mom and dad. But then you have to think about blaming yourself because mutations can occur in sunlight.
So I wanted to answer the question, how much sun do we actually need to get our vitamin D, our daily dosage? It really depends on how much of your body is exposed to the sun and where you live. Okay, so let's just take San Diego, for example. And also your age. If you're younger, you absorb a lot more vitamin D. If you're older, you're a factor of 3 times more. So you need 3 times as much sun. So if you're in San Diego and you're young, and just your hands and your face are exposed to the sun, you have to spend 42 minutes in the sun to get the vitamin D that you need per day, the RDAs. And that's just the bare bones, right? We're not talking about the stuff to maintain or even try to reverse some type of illness. We're just talking just to prevent rickets, for example. All right, so the next one, you have short sleeves and then on your face and your hands, 26% of your body, 19 minutes. Okay, so 19 minutes. Shorts and a t-shirt, 46% of your body exposed, 11 minutes. Not bad, right? No shirt and just shorts. 72% of your body is exposed to the sun. 7 minutes, boom, you got your dose, right? But if you're in Seattle, okay, in the north, and you're young, you need 168 minutes if just your face and your hands are exposed. If you're older in Seattle, 504 minutes to get your daily dosage of vitamin D. That's a lot of time out in the sun. Okay, if you're in Seattle and you're younger, short sleeves in your face and your hands, 76 minutes. Okay, a little more than an hour. And if you're older, 228 minutes. It's a long time. Now you're in a shorts and a t-shirt, 44 minutes, okay, versus 132 minutes. No shirt, shorts, 28 minutes, and then 84 minutes. The reason why I'm showing you this chart is to get you to think with these variables. It's not just about the sun, it's about where you're living versus in the world, certain latitudes, your age. If your skin is lighter or darker, you're going to need more sun if you have a darker skin. The health of your liver, for example, is important. So there's a lot of variables to this vitamin D, and vitamin D is so important, especially as you get older, especially if you're really young, especially if you're sick, for viruses, for the flu, to prevent autoimmune problems. So you may want to consider taking vitamin D, especially nowadays since people are just inside so much. They just don't get enough sun. All right, thanks for watching.
What we found was that after 3 months of taking either placebo, 1,000 units, 2,000, or 4,000 units a day, the actual dose that African Americans probably need to reach the target recommended by the Institute of Medicine is approximately 1,600 units of vitamin D per day. And that's vastly different than the guidelines issued by the Institute of Medicine, which recommend only 600 units a day for adults up to age 70. We have increasing evidence that higher levels of vitamin D, for instance, may be very important for improving survival from colorectal cancer. A lot of our research has suggested that colon cancer patients have much lower levels of vitamin D in the blood. So if we think that vitamin D is important not only for bone health, but also to protect people against these other chronic diseases, it may be very important to try and figure out what doses of vitamin D supplements people should be on to raise their blood levels.
Let's talk about some of the real interesting benefits from the sun that go beyond just vitamin D. So as you know, when the sun hits your skin, there's certain chemical reactions that occur that generate vitamin D from cholesterol in your skin. So people are always against cholesterol, but you need cholesterol to actually make vitamin D. Okay, so there's a lot of benefits to cholesterol. But check this out. When the sun hits your skin and the retina, okay, through your eye, you get a chemical conversion of increasing serotonin. And serotonin can greatly affect your mood. And this is why, of course, when you're in the sun, you feel much better. And when the winter comes and it's dark, you don't feel that great if it goes on and on. In fact, when I originally graduated from college, I wanted to go and live in Washington State. Okay, it was just beautiful there. And I just loved the whole scenery and how green the grass was. Well, little did I know, the reason why it's so green is it rains so much. In fact, for 6 months, I don't think the sun came out at all. And I got really depressed. So I moved from Washington State down to California, actually right next to the Mojave Desert to dry out all the sun, and my mood definitely went up. So there is a relationship between the sun and your mood via certain hormones. Okay, number 2. it affects melatonin. It actually reduces melatonin. Melatonin is the hormone that helps you sleep. So darkness stimulates melatonin, but light, sun, will decrease this. This makes you sleepy. So the sun wakes you up. Okay, so another benefit. Number 3, the heat from the sun and the humidity that's generated from the sun and also the environment has the power to decrease viral loads even from COVID-19. And this is where you're going to see as you go into the summer, you're going to find that a lot of people are going to do much, much better simply because the reproduction of that virus is affected by the temperature and the humidity of the environment. And this is why these viruses a lot of times are seasonal, like influenza comes out in the winter, but kind of goes away in the summer. Now, number 4, UV. This is a wavelength that you're getting from the sun that has antibacterial effects. And this has nothing to do with vitamin D. UV inhibits the growth of certain bacteria and other microbes, even through glass. It can actually inhibit tetanus, typhoid, TB, staph, strep, and many other microorganisms. All right, number 5, the sun will increase resistance to infection, so it helps your immune system. All right, number 6, the infrared wavelength of the sun is great for wound healing and decreasing pain. There's many different types of therapy using infrared, and if you haven't seen the benefits of vitamin D from the sun, you got to check that out. I put it right here.
Blood levels. I think regardless of what your race is, it may be prudent to talk to your physician about whether it makes sense to check your blood levels for vitamin D. Because, you know, for all of us living in the New England area in the wintertime, we don't get enough UVB radiation exposure from the sun to make any vitamin D in our skin. And so a lot of us, regardless of race, are deficient in the wintertime in the northeastern United States. So I think regardless of race, it makes sense to ask your physician about whether blood levels of vitamin D should be checked and whether you should go on a supplement to try and raise your levels to promote health.
Sunlight can actually damage DNA. Now, most damage that occurs with sunlight damage to DNA can cause other types of tumors, like melanoma. Cause of that is UV irradiation from the sun. So there are examples in your environment of pesticides, of food you eat, of toxic agents. We are all exposed to things that can alter our DNA. And some of us do a better job of repairing. Some of us don't repair nearly as well. So mom and dad are to blame. Things you expose yourself are to blame. And then the third one, which is the hardest one to explain, bad luck. I mean, imagine you got to copy those 3 billion bases over and over and over and over again. Every once in a while, you make a mistake. And it's nobody's fault. It had nothing to do with what you ate. It had nothing to do with mom and dad. It's just that the system put the wrong piece in there. It's a mutation, but it's a random error of copying DNA.
It's going to enable a lot of science to be done that was impossible to do in the past. So the way the CRISPR technology works is by the action of a protein called Cas9 that functions like a molecular scalpel for DNA. The CRISPR-Cas9 system has an amazing ability to recognize a particular DNA sequence in a cell that may be malfunctioning and then disable it by cutting the DNA. We call this gene editing, and we can use it to disable or repair a mutated part of the gene. We call this gene editing, and we can use it to disable or repair a mutated part of the gene, which may be causing disease. For Cas9 to find the malfunctioning DNA, we attach it to an RNA sequence that matches the DNA sequence we want to edit. Then we put this RNA-Cas9 combination into the cell. It finds the mutant DNA and uses a chemical reaction to cut the DNA strand right at the spot where it's malfunctioning. After that, we can sometimes insert the correct version of the gene for the cell to work properly again. It's a very exciting technology that's going to do a lot of good in human society and for human health. It stretches from human therapeutics to agricultural applications to thinking about how do we make better biofuels. These would be incredible outcomes, I think, of using this kind of technology in the future.
Our ability to manipulate genes can be very powerful. It has been very powerful.
This is going to revolutionize human life.
Would the consequences be bad? And they might be.
Every time you monkey with the genome, you are taking a chance that something will go wrong.
The technique could be misused in horrible ways.
When I started this research project, kind of had this initial feeling of what have I done, and CRISPR gene editing technology is a tool that scientists can use to change the letters of DNA in cells in precise ways. So I like to use the analogy of a word processor on our computer. So we have a document, you can think about the DNA in a cell like the text of a document that has the instructions to tell the cell how to grow and divide and become a brain cell or a liver cell or develop into an entire organism. And just like in a document, the CRISPR technology gives scientists a way to go in and edit the letters of DNA, just like we might cut and paste text in our document or replace whole sentences, even whole paragraphs or chapters. We can now do that using the CRISPR technology in the DNA of cells. CRISPR is an acronym that actually represents a sequence of DNA letters in the genomes of cells. It's found in bacteria, and it was interesting to scientists originally because it's a bacterial immune system, a way that bacteria...
Microbes are everywhere. On your phone, in your water bottle, on your hands before you wash them, on your hands after you wash them, and literally everywhere else on top of you too. Microbes are omnipresent at any moment, and there is nothing we can do about it. So millions of years ago, we made a pact. We give them shelter and food, and in turn, they work for us. But the more we learn about this partnership, the more it looks like a Cold War. Inside our mother's womb, humans start out sterile. When we're born and traveling through the birth canal, billions of our mother's bacteria cover every single part of our bodies. This is an essential part of human health. Children born via C-section have a higher rate of asthma, immune diseases, and even leukemia. So our bodies do not only accept the invasion of microorganisms, they welcome it. Over millions of years, we co-evolved to make the best of our relationship. Mother's milk, for example, contains special sugars that are meant to feed and support certain groups of microbes, work as a decoy for others, and help to modulate the immune system. It takes up to 2 years until a healthy microbe community has formed. Every human has their own unique microbiome made up of bacteria, viruses, fungi, and other organisms. We have 3 categories of guests on and in our bodies. 1, quiet passengers that do their own thing and are politely ignored. By being there, they take up space and keep more aggressive intruders in check. 2, guests that harm us but with whom we've learned to live. For example, bacteria that literally create acid that melts our teeth if we don't brush enough. They want to take up as much space as they can, and we don't want them to. But we can't get rid of them entirely. 3, friendly fellows that our bodies want to have around. Most of them are a community of 380,000 billion bacteria from up to 5,000 different species that live in our gut. These gut microorganisms help us digest food and pull additional calories from things we can't digest ourselves. Unfortunately, our gut is also the perfect point of attack for intruders, so it's guarded by an aggressive army, our immune system. To survive here, our microbiome co-evolved with us to be able to communicate with our body. The most important part of that is to ask the immune system to not kill them. But they also have a real motivation to keep our gut healthy, so some of them produce messenger substances that help to educate the immune system, and others stimulate the gut cells to regenerate faster. But over the last few years, evidence has emerged that the influence of our gut microbiome goes much, much further. It might even talk directly to our brain. we've observed a few curious things. 90% of our body's serotonin, an important messenger substance for nerve cells, is produced in the gut. Some scientists think the microbiome does this to communicate with the vagus nerve, the information highway of our nervous system. Other examples are bacteria that stimulate immune cells in the gut, so they send a kind of alarm signal to the brain. Here it activates immune cells that help the brain recover from injuries. Since the brain decides when we eat, the microbiome is interested in a healthy brain. A new field of science is opening up here, and we're just on the verge of understanding how these complex systems inside our bodies interact. But we are starting to see how much our microbiome actually influences us and our behavior. Take depression, for example. Healthy rats fed microbes from the guts of depressed people began showing anxiety-like behavior and symptoms that look like depression. And in early 2017, a study linked the microbiome to intelligence by connecting a certain setup of bacteria in newborns with better motor and language skills. But it might also influence our daily lives. Tests with fruit flies showed that their microbiome influenced what kinds of food they craved. This could mean your microbes are able to tell your brain which food it should get them, although this is not a one-way street. The seed for our microbiome comes from our mother, but how it develops and changes is determined by what we eat. The organisms in our gut feed on different things. Some like fibers and leafy greens, others go for sugars and starches, and some love greasy fries and butter. Our gut is like a garden in which we constantly decide what will grow and blossom. If we eat healthily, we breed bacteria that like healthy food. If we eat a lot of fast food, then we breed fast food-loving bacteria. Life is hard, so we can get trapped in a vicious circle. You have a stressful time and eat lots of burgers and fries and pizza. This is awesome for fast food bacteria. They multiply and take up space from vegetable-loving bacteria. But even worse, they send signals to the brain to continue what it's doing. This makes you want more fast food, which breeds more fast food bacteria, which makes you crave fast food, and so on. This kind of self-reinforcing cycle could play a huge role in obesity. But it's important to stress that you can fight this process and reverse it by eating healthily and breeding more good bacteria. Beyond weight gain, our microbiome has also been linked to other serious diseases like autism, schizophrenia, and cancer. One of the earliest symptoms of Parkinson's is actually gut problems. If your body is overrun with bacteria that harm you, there is often only one solution. You bring in an army of good guys. That's very easy. You just transplant some healthy poop. You do that by literally transferring poop from a healthy person into your gut. This method is already used to cure diarrhea that's caused when C. difficile bacteria take over a gut microbiome. But we just don't know enough about the complex interplay at work here yet. For example, a transplant from an overweight donor cured a woman's diarrhea, but contributed to her obesity down the line. This caused some waves, and another study tried to reverse the effect. Poop transplants from slim people to obese ones gave them a more diverse microbiome and made them less sensitive to insulin, both things that also happen when people lose weight. We need to do a lot more science to really understand how our microbes make us healthy or sick. But whether we like it or not, we need our microbiome and it needs us. We'll never have our bodies to ourselves, but we have gained a powerful ally, if we can just keep the peace.
It's one thing to talk about being able to remove mutations from the human population that cause genetic disease, and I think for many people that would be a desirable thing to do. On the other hand, I think it's a very different discussion to think about using a technology like this to create enhanced human beings, people that are taller or have a certain eye color or other kinds of physical or intellectual traits that might be considered desirable. It sort of immediately brings up sort of the whole area of eugenics and sort of access to technology, who gets access, who pays for it, who decides whether or not to do such a thing. Should companies be allowed to offer this as a service to parents who want to do this? And if so, should they be regulated in some way? There's a lot of very interesting and challenging questions, I think, that go along with that.
The technique could be misused in horrible ways. It could be misused, for example, to create biological weapons, to create new forms of threats to human beings, threats for which we don't have any known antidote. Or it could simply be used to create human beings of far superior capability. Not just taking genes and removing defects, but adding new super capabilities. What if in the process of that kind of gene editing, we created a caste society where some people were genetically designed to do menial tasks and didn't have the capability of doing anything else? And other people were designed to be the rulers with huge IQs and the capability of understanding things beyond the pale for lesser humans.